Once upon a time, this Lexus LX570 was a symbol of luxury, power, comfort, presence. It rolled off the lot with a $90,000 price tag and turned heads wherever it went. But time doesn't care about price tags. Years passed, owners changed, and somewhere along the line, this SUV was abandoned, left to rot in a scrapyard. Rusted panels, flat tires, shattered glass. The interior? Moldy, infested, a place even rats didn't want to live. The engine? Dead. The frame? Cracking under the weight of neglect. Most people wouldn't even glance at it. Too far gone, they'd say. Not worth the trouble. But we saw something different. Beneath the damage, there was still a heartbeat. A machine that once ruled the road, waiting for a second chance. And that's exactly what we gave it. This isn't just a repair. This is a full resurrection. Welcome to the restoration of a legend. This is reviving the rusted beast, the Lexus LX570. And it starts right now. Our first challenge? Getting this broken down beast out of the scrapyard without falling apart on the way. The suspension was toast. The wheels barely rolled. The underbody was flaking with rust. And every panel felt like it could fall off with a sneeze. We weren't just towing a car. We were hauling a 6,000-pound pile of problems. As the winch pulled the Lexus onto the flatbed, the chassis groaned, the tires sagged, and the muffler nearly ripped off. Even the tow truck driver gave us that look like, "Are you guys serious?" But to us, this wasn't just junk. It was the beginning of something epic. Every scratch, every dent, every bolt holding on for dear life. It was all part of the story we were about to rewrite. When we finally got into the shop, we stood back and took it all in. The smell of old fluids, the sound of metal creaking as it settled, the sheer weight of what lay ahead. But we weren't intimidated. We were inspired, because no great comeback starts easy. The rescue is done. Now, the real work could begin. With the Lexus safely inside the shop, the real work began. We had to strip it down completely. Out came the seats, the carpets, the dashboard panels. The wheels were off, giving us a clear look at the suspension and brakes. The engine bay was exposed, revealing years of dirt, rust, and corrosion. As we peeled back the layers, the true extent of the damage became clear. The frame itself was surprisingly solid, better than we expected, but rust had already begun to eat through key areas. The suspension was shot beyond repair. Bushings were cracked, shocks were leaking, and springs had lost their tension. The heart of the car, the 5.7-liter V8 engine, had seized completely. Years of sitting still, combined with lack of maintenance, had turned it into a locked hunk of metal. Wiring throughout the engine bay was brittle and frayed, and many connections were corroded beyond recognition. Inside, the cabin was a horror show. Mold clung to every fabric surface. The dashboard was cracked and faded, and the headliner hung loose like a rag. The smell was overpowering, a mix of mildew, old leather, and damp rust. This wasn't just a restoration job. It was a total revival. But despite all the damage and decay, we found something important, a solid foundation. The chassis hadn't been crushed or bent. The major structural parts were intact, and the frame rails were holding strong. This was the difference between a junker and a diamond in the rough. We had a Lexus that, if brought back properly, could roar back to life and reclaim its glory. It was a daunting task, but the kind of challenge that fuels our passion. So we rolled up our sleeves, because there was no turning back now. The heart of this Lexus LX570 was its mighty 5.7-liter V8 engine, known for power and durability. But years of neglect had taken their toll. When we tried to turn it over, it was seized solid. Nothing moved, not a single piston. The first step was pulling the engine out of the bay, a massive job in itself. With the engine on the stand, the teardown began. Every component was disassembled, inspected, and cleaned meticulously. The pistons were stuck, the cylinder walls scored and worn. The valves were coated in carbon deposits, and the camshaft bearings showed signs of heavy wear. Every gasket was brittle and cracked. Oil passages clogged with sludge, fuel injectors clogged with years of deposits. We replaced the timing chain, tensioners, and guides. Spark plugs were swapped out for brand new ones, and every seal was replaced to stop future leaks. The fuel system was completely cleaned and tested for flow. The transmission was not spared. After all, a powerful engine needs a reliable transmission. We drained old fluid, flushed the system, replaced worn clutches, and rebuilt it to handle the revived engine's power. The cooling system was next. A new radiator, new hoses, water pump, and thermostat. No chance of overheating on our watch. Meanwhile, the suspension needed a complete rebuild. Old shocks were removed and replaced with heavy-duty, off-road ready units. Control arms, ball joints, and bushings were replaced to restore ride quality and safety. The braking system was completely overhauled with new discs, pads, and brake lines. Stopping power is as important as going fast, especially for a heavy SUV like this. Every nut, bolt, hose, and wire was inspected and replaced if necessary. Electrical connections were cleaned and repaired to ensure flawless operation. This phase was painstaking and time-consuming. Each step required patience and precision, but it was the foundation, the heartbeat, that would bring this Lexus back to life. As days turned to weeks, with the engine and mechanicals coming back to life, it was time to turn our attention to the exterior. The bodywork on this Lexus was a battlefield of rust, dents, and faded paint. Years in the elements had taken a heavy toll, especially on the undercarriage and lower panels. We started by stripping away the old paint to expose the true extent of the damage. What we found was both troubling and expected. Deep rust pockets, bubbling metal, and corrosion eating through panels. Some sections were so badly rusted, they needed to be cut out entirely and replaced with fresh metal. Every dent and ding told a story, some from off-road adventures, others from years of neglect. But with every dent removed and every patch welded in place, the Lexus began to regain its shape. Sanding, grinding, and smoothing took hours, sometimes days, of meticulous work. We treated every inch with rust inhibitors and sealants to prevent future corrosion. The doors, hood, and tailgate were carefully aligned, ensuring smooth operation and factory-level fitment. Trim pieces and chrome accents were polished or replaced, restoring that luxury look this SUV was born to have. Finally, after endless prep, the Lexus was ready for paint. We chose a deep, glossy black to bring out its aggressive, commanding presence. Multiple coats were applied, each carefully polished to a flawless finish. The transformation was stunning. What was once a rusted, forgotten shell was now a shining example of craftsmanship and care. But the work wasn't done yet. The finishing touches, interior restoration, and reassembly waited. This was more than a restoration, it was a resurrection. While the exterior shined like new, the interior was a different story. Years of neglect had left the cabin in rough shape. Mold-covered seats, cracked dashboard, and stained carpets. Every surface told a story of wear and abandonment. We started by removing every piece of the interior trim, seats, door panels, dashboard components, to fully assess the damage. Mold and mildew had taken hold in the fabric and foam, requiring deep cleaning and replacement. The seats were carefully stripped down. Foam padding was replaced, leather surfaces were cleaned and conditioned, and any tears were expertly repaired. The dashboard was refinished to restore its original luster. Cracks were filled and painted, while buttons and switches were cleaned and tested for full functionality. Carpets and headliners were replaced with fresh materials, eliminating the musty odors and restoring a feeling of luxury. Electronics, including the infotainment system and climate controls, were inspected and repaired to ensure everything worked flawlessly. The goal wasn't just to make the interior look good. It was to bring back that feeling of comfort, luxury, and pride that a Lexus owner deserves. Piece by piece, the cabin was transformed from a neglected mess into a pristine sanctuary, ready for the road ahead. This was the final step before reassembling the vehicle for its triumphant return. After months of hard work, countless hours in the garage, and a seemingly endless list of parts and repairs, the moment of truth had finally arrived. Final assembly was underway. Every bolt, every panel, every wire carefully reinstalled with precision. This was the culmination of all our effort, a chance to bring this Lexus back from the brink of oblivion. The engine bay gleamed under the shop lights, showcasing the freshly rebuilt V8, spotless and ready to roar. Inside the cabin, the seats looked brand new, the dashboard restored to perfection, and every detail meticulously attended to. It was hard to believe this was the same vehicle we pulled from the scrapyard just weeks ago. We ran through multiple checklists: brakes, suspension, electrical systems, cooling, fuel delivery, ensuring everything was flawless before firing it up. Then came the moment we'd all been waiting for, turning the key. The engine caught on the first try. A deep, powerful rumble filled the garage, a sound that spoke of life, strength, and rebirth. It was as if the Lexus itself was taking a deep breath after years of silence. But the real test was still ahead, the road. We carefully rolled the vehicle out of the shop and onto the pavement for its maiden voyage. Every mile told a story. The suspension soaked up bumps like it was fresh off the assembly line. The brakes responded sharply and confidently, bringing the heavy SUV to a smooth stop. The engine delivered power smoothly and effortlessly, pulling strong through every gear. We tested acceleration, handling, and braking on a variety of roads, from quiet streets to open highways, pushing the Lexus to prove it was worthy of its second life. And it did. With every turn of the wheel, every shift of the transmission, it felt like the Lexus was reclaiming its throne, ready to conquer new adventures, new challenges. This wasn't just a car. It was a story of redemption, a symbol of passion, dedication, and craftsmanship. From a rusted, forgotten relic, this Lexus LX570 was transformed into a luxury SUV that could stand proudly beside any new model on the road. As it cruised down the highway, gleaming in the sunlight, there was a sense of accomplishment that words can't capture. This was more than restoration, it was resurrection. And for us, the journey was far from over. Because every restored car carries a promise that with enough heart and hard work, anything broken can come back stronger than before. Fiercer, more majestic than ever. This was not just a car, it was a testament to passion, to craftsmanship, to the unbreakable spirit of revival. And as the wind rushed past and the road stretched out ahead, we knew one thing for sure. This Lexus wasn't just ready for the road. It was ready to make history all over again.